not control his family, or at least he refuses to. When his parents visit and give us crap for forcing our kids to do chores, he gives in, and the house slowly becomes a mess that I've been left to clean up. When his siblings visit, we're expected to clean up after them. I never agreed to this, so now I leave. I lock up my office and go to my parents' home. I meet up with his family at restaurants or other public places. His parents have learned that now when they visit, they have to clean up after the kids or get them and my husband to do it. They tried saying that I was abusive for refusing to do housework while they visited, so I posted a picture of my home before they came and one I took during their last visit. I asked them why the house was so messy and dirty and if they had anything to do with it. They said it wasn't their mess. I replied that the house was clean before they showed up. Once they started getting dogpiled for messing up my house, they threw the kids under the bus. They said my kids were uncontrollable and it was their mess. I pointed out that there was no mess until they came, so obviously my kids could clean up after themselves when there weren't people telling them not to. My husband's siblings have canceled plans to visit because they know I won't be there to clean up after them or cook, so they'll have to cook or spend money on takeout and restaurants. Great outcome, in my opinion. My husband says I'm being unfair, putting all the work of cleaning up on him. I said he has 2 children to help him, as well as adult guests who should be able to not make a mess. I also told him he could just pay for a cleaning service out of his discretionary funds if he wanted to let his family run rampant and not clean up after them. He said that I was being mean by not contributing and making him spend his money. I asked how much he normally spends on cleaning the house. The answer is nothing, since the 4 of us keep the house clean and tidy on our own. Am I the idiot for staying with my parents and refusing to come home whenever my in-laws visit? Not the idiot. Your way of handling this is brilliant. The rule should clearly be that all adults pick up after themselves as a matter of course. They are humans, not monkeys at a zoo. All children are in training to learn how to pick up after themselves. And of course, the training doesn't stop just because the grandparents or the cousins come to visit. It has to do with a certain grade of civilization. Non-civilized people may not want to pick up after themselves, but other people may choose not to associate with them on any level. I'm sorry, but you have a husband problem, not an in-law problem. Yes, they are messing up your house, but your husband won't stand up to them or back you up. The easiest solution is to tell them they must stay in a hotel when they visit you. No more freebies, no more maid service. Until things change, enjoy a nice visit with your parents when the in-laws roll into town. I don't think OP has any problem, thanks to her ingenuity and spine. She's handling this brilliantly and has taken herself out of the equation. She would have a husband problem if she felt trapped with her visiting in-laws and cleaning up after them without help or support. But it sounds like she did it once or twice and then peaced out. They can either change, be uncomfortable, or stop coming. It's up to them and not her circus. Know the difference between in-laws and outlaws? Outlaws are wanted. OP's husband needs to pull his head out of his butt and take responsibility for his home. How spineless. If his family was trashing the house and he didn't have the guts to say anything, he is responsible for cleaning it. I'm very curious if OP's children are both boys, though. This feels like it could possibly be misogyny and internalized misogyny on mother-in-law's cause. Expecting everyone to keep a house together is not abusive. It's being fair. Expecting the wife mainly, especially if she's the only woman or girl living in the household, well... My son has a young teen daughter, Clara, and a teen stepdaughter. My son isn't in a good financial situation, and while they do their best, they can only afford necessities. A few days ago, Clara visited us, and we talked. I asked her about school, and she told me that she's having a lot of problems because she needs a computer for some of her homework. She needs to visit the library, which is far away from their home, to do her homework. Also, kids are making fun of her for not having a phone. As a grandmother, I can't just watch my granddaughter struggle. So even though we aren't in a very good financial situation, we use some of our savings to buy a MacBook, phone, headphones, and a few school supplies for her, and she was obviously very happy when she received our gifts. However, this has caused problems because my daughter-in-law is mad that we didn't do the same for her daughter. We told her that instead of getting upset, she could ask her child's grandparents to buy things for her, and she called us idiots. My son informed me that daughter-in-law has been trying to get Clara to share, but they've refused. Not the idiot. Your son and his wife should not show favoritism. You have the right to contribute as you like. Clara needed it. Does the step-granddaughter want it just because Clara has it? Or does she truly need it as well? Also, you say that step 1 has 2 sets of grandparents alive. Are they treating both children equally? Blended families are difficult to manage, but it's the parents who want to blend. You have to respect their decision, but in my opinion, you can choose how you spend your resources on them. You are the idiot. Big time. How cruel are you? And hearing that your blood granddaughter won't share with her stepsister shows that she's learning from you. Neither one of you is the main character. You probably could have bought 2 less pretentious computers for the price of a MacBook. I say this as a person who has had both and finds the MacBook overpriced. As a grandmother, I would have gifted the computer to the parents, the phone to the granddaughter, and something else to the stepdaughter. Their household is now a hostile environment, thanks to you. My 33 male parents, 64 female, 68 male, own a country house, and there's this tradition for every child in our family to plant a tree there. I did it myself when I was 5, and so did my brothers, sister, nephews, and nieces. I have a young grammar school-age daughter with my ex-girlfriend. My mother called me to ask if I'll have my daughter for Christmas. We usually spend Christmas in the country house because now she's old enough to plant her tree. I told her that my daughter would spend Christmas with her mother. I'll see her in a few days before going to the country house. But also I said that my stepson, pre-tween, my wife's 36, son from her first marriage, would be there. My mother was silent momentarily and told me she didn't consider having my stepson plant his tree. I was very offended by that. It made clear that she doesn't see him as part of our family. She then said there's no guarantee he'll remain in our lives, which implies she's considering that my marriage to his mother may not last. I told her if that's how she feels, she shouldn't expect us for Christmas this year. Was I too harsh? I wonder if I could be an idiot, because it is her property after all, and she does have the final say. Not the idiot. My son is technically my stepson. His biological mother is not a part of his life, and he considers me his mom. If my family pulled a stunt like this, I would go low contact with them. Rather than let a child plant a tree, which could be moved or cut down later, your mother wants to exclude the child? There's no guarantee anyone will remain in your life, but your mother's excluding a child because she doesn't value your marriage. That's what I don't understand. Even if they get divorced, why does it matter that there's a tree planted by someone she no longer has a relationship with? And if it were a problem, why couldn't she just remove it at that point? Or just leave the tree up, even if they do divorce? It's not like the tree's gonna grow with leaves that have little Timmy's face on them. It's just a tree. Who cares who planted the seeds? Seems like it would be worth it to make the kid feel accepted. I wonder if this has more to do with OP splitting up with the ex rather than their current partner, or if they haven't been together too long. It sounds like the mom is more distrustful of OP rather than spiteful to a child. It would be nice for her to include the child in the tradition, but it should also depend on whether the kid wants to be included. This is something everyone loves to complain about every single time a step-parent or family tries to force the family ideal onto. I think there's a lot of relevant information that's missing. His father and his paternal grandparents are present in his life, so he sees my parents as just that, my parents. However, my parents saw him this past year more often than they saw my own daughter, because my wife has full custody of her son, and he's with us most of the time. My wife and I have been married for 1 year, plus 2 years of dating. You went from 0 to 100 pretty quickly. You mentioned that the child doesn't view your folks as grandparents, that they are your parents. Do your parents treat your stepson well, otherwise? Maybe if a relationship grew over time, he could plant a tree further down the road. However, right now, it sounds like he's your new stepson who already has grandparents. Seems like an extreme reaction. You are the idiot. I, 25 female, worked for a university from 18 to 21. For many years, I felt university wasn't for me, as although I had good grades, my self-esteem was pretty low, and I thought I wasn't good enough for university, and I couldn't even afford it. I worked as an assistant for various departments, and many of my colleagues who taught students said that they could see my potential, and they finally encouraged me to apply. I decided to apply to the university and got in, and I was accepted onto 4 scholarships that are designed for students with lots of potential, so I no longer had to worry about applying for student loans and not being able to afford them. Last year, I was meant to be in my final year of university, and I should have graduated, but a student was making up rumors about me and this lecturer having an affair, which didn't happen. The university soon picked up on these rumors and started its own investigation. At first, the lecturer and I had to stay separated, which meant I missed half the classes, as she was one of the 2 teaching me that year. 2 months later, the lecturer got suspended with full pay, and 5 days later, the university sent me an email to my personal email account and told me that I was being suspended and that I wasn't allowed on university grounds and that I wasn't allowed to contact anyone at university. The staff who was investigating these rumors fully believed that we were having an affair, and we were suspended for 9 months so they could find evidence of our affair. As a result of them taking 9 months, I ended up failing the final year, and now I have to retake it. While suspended, these rumors about the affair spread through the campus fast, and everyone knew. I had a friend who I now consider my best friend who made contact under a secret Snapchat account. He asked for my account, and he said he fully believed me and started doing his own investigation to find out who it was. I'm running out of word count, so to keep it short, after speaking to various students, he finally found evidence that a student had made up the rumors and started and reported it to the university. He found concrete evidence and took it to the investigation team, and they closed the report and allowed us back to campus. But the student didn't get suspended or punished. All she was made to do was retake the 3rd and final year, and she had to pay for it, whereas I didn't. Now I'm in class with her, and she struggles a lot. She keeps requesting my help because I always understand the assignments and the fact that I know what to do. She's fed up with me saying no and spoke to our former classmates, and now they're saying I'm an idiot because I keep holding a grudge against her because of what she did and the fact I nearly lost a degree, which I haven't, and they're stating that I should help her out. Am I the idiot for refusing to help her when she nearly cost me a degree and a teacher her career? Holy crap! She endangered your education and career as well as the professors. She cost you a year. It's nuts she'd expect anything from you. Clearly she doesn't understand the impact of her actions. I'd tell her to never speak to me again, or I'd go to your university and report her harassment. Not the idiot, but why was no action taken against the student? She should be nowhere near you. You're a better person than me, OP. With all that happened to you, I would have looked into legal action and ensured that the student was banned from campus. Do not interact with her or help her in any way. What? Wow, what a story. I'm very sorry for you. This person is objectively dangerous. Stay away for your safety. Think of the most neutral way to say that she really messed you over, and it's just a practical matter to stay away. There's no need to be nasty. It's sensible. How quickly the truth of that sinks in is not your concern. My husband, 39, and I, 40, female, have been married for 12 years and have 3 kids, tween, pre-tween, and kindergartner. I was a stay-at-home mom for most of our kids' lives and only re-entered the workforce 2 years ago when our middle child reached kindergarten, so we didn't have to pay an arm and a leg for daycare. I've worked my way up the ladder in my chosen field and finally feel like I'm more than just a stay-at-home mom. My company holds a big black tie gala for Xmas and holiday party every year. Last year we could not attend due to my being sick, so I was really looking forward to it this year. My sister even agreed to drive 3 hours to spend the night with the kids so we didn't have to worry about a babysitter. I bought a lovely fancy dress, and my husband rented a tux in preparation for the event last Friday. Then the week of Thanksgiving, my husband's favorite uncle passed away. My husband didn't have a relationship with his dad growing up, and his uncle didn't have kids of his own. So his uncle was a father figure for my husband, even if it was more of an uncle way. The funeral was held the week before my work event, but because it was held in another state that required a flight, only my husband attended. When he got back, I talked to him about it, and he said he was sad and grieving, but also said he was fine. Nothing about his day-to-day stuff was out of the ordinary, and he took a couple of days off work after he got back to have some time to process things. My sister arrived the day before my work event, and that night, my sister told me that he didn't feel up to attending the event. His reasons were that he was socially and emotionally exhausted, and the last thing he felt like doing was making more small talk with a bunch of strangers like he had to do at his uncle's funeral. I reminded him that my sister had just driven hours to watch the kids. I had already bought a new dress. He had rented a tux, and most importantly, I was really looking forward to this. He said I could still attend by myself, but I told him that it was also important to me that he come with me and that we hadn't had a date night in almost 6 months. He agreed to go, but he sulked about it the entire time. He dragged his feet getting ready, didn't socialize, didn't want to dance, etc. At one point, I lost track of him and found him sitting at the bar by himself. When I went to talk to him to try to get him to come and socialize with me, he told me that he'd already told me he had no energy for that and that he only came because I made him. I told him if he was just going to sulk and drink alone, we might as well leave. And he said, "Great, let's go." I told him how disappointed I was that he acted that way at an event that he knew was extremely important to me, and he got defensive and told me it was my fault for dragging him there when he didn't want to go. He's barely spoken to me since, unless it's about the kids. You are the idiot for not going by yourself. Your husband just lost his de facto father. He's grieving. He told you that he was mentally and emotionally exhausted, which is valid given what he had just been through and just didn't feel like socializing, i.e., he said his cup was empty. You ignored your husband's needs and pressed him to go, even though he didn't feel like it. You could have gone solo and enjoyed yourself and let your husband stay home and relax while your sister was kind enough to watch the kids anyway, and while he had a break to restore himself. The kicker is, I think everyone at her job would have completely understood, and there would have been no negative recourse. Most people wouldn't have noticed if the OP had turned up alone. To be honest, I would find it much more notable if a colleague's spouse turned up and was an asocial idiot than if the colleague came by herself and said, "My husband sends his apologies. He had to travel for a funeral this week and is too tired to attend." That's normal and very relatable. And for God's sake, the man told you he could not socialize, but you hauled him out anyway, and you're angry with him because he was in no condition to socialize. What exactly prevented you from going alone? Could your sister not have gone as your date? And what exactly prevented you from letting your husband sit quietly at the bar while you hobnobbed with coworkers? His need to grieve, in my opinion, completely outweighs your desire for a fancy social event. Lately, my whole family, including my tween son, Mark, fake name, has been interested in ancestry. Everyone wanted to go get tested. We were hesitant because Mark is adopted. But after we read up about it and how there's an option to make sure nobody else could see his data but us, we agreed. We found nothing on the maternal side closer than third cousin, but we did find a match for a biological father. We looked him up on social media. Here's the thing. He's 24 years old, as in he's turning 25 this year. Our son was an anonymous hospital surrender, so we understood that we must tread carefully. The story might not be great, but this crosses a line for us. Given basic math, there's almost no chance that this story is anything appropriate for our son to hear. And talking to this guy feels grossly inappropriate for us to do. We're uncomfortable talking to this guy, or that it's a right move for our family. We decided to tell our son that we didn't find anything about his biological parents, even when we had his complete contact information. He was disappointed but accepted it. My family thinks we should have told him the truth, but we disagree. As our son's parents, we're responsible for protecting him, and we feel this is the best. We never promised him that this would come up with anything, or that we would decide to reach out if it did. It was only ever a possibility that we were open to, if it was safe and reasonable to. We've been arguing back and forth all day with nobody else on our side. Is there something I'm not seeing here? Am I the idiot for telling my son we didn't find his biological parents? Edit. Son knows he's adopted. I wouldn't have a problem with him having this information at 18. We would even be willing to be the point of contact then. 6 years would give everyone involved a chance to get older. 30 feels different from 24, and 18 is light years away from his age. Is there any possibility that the person identified as the father is the younger brother of the actual father? Well, no. Given the DNA percentage, even if there's somehow full siblings, it's not likely. You are the idiot for telling other family members. So many people were part of that conversation that there's no way the secret will stay secret for long. If your son doesn't get to know, then they certainly shouldn't have been told. Also, he's likely going to try to find his bio parents himself again one day, and he might be upset if he finds out that you kept this information from him, especially if his bio dad does want some relationship. This is his story. You can't sanitize it or hide it from him, and that will just add to the trauma when he inevitably finds out the truth, and he will find out. This will bite you in the idiot. Yeah, 3 people can keep a secret if 2 are dead. OP will have to deal with her son's feelings of betrayal because of all the lies, and it's such a stupid secret to begin with. This kid is 12 years old. He's old enough to be communicated with about this, rather than be lied to. What's wrong with saying, we did find somebody, but we don't know if they're safe enough to reach out to yet? He's not 6 years old. Surely he will understand when his parents explain that his biological father was too young for a kid and that he's a stranger who might not be safe. 18 is too late. That's the only part that gets me. Why on earth did OP discuss this with anyone other than their spouse? You've turned a private, possibly traumatic subject for your son into family gossip. This will come out now, and it'll get back to your son. Too many people know. People who will talk amongst themselves and possibly directly to your son. If anyone was to get that information, it was your son. And if he wasn't getting it, then you shouldn't have told anyone. Everyone's the idiot here. I wish you hadn't told anyone else, though. My nephew was told the truth about his conception by a "it's only right" person at 12. He thought my brother was his bio dad. He was very loved, very wanted, but still, a product of my sister-in-law's unfortunate accident. Oof, that should have been a secret. He's 32 now, no interest in having a family, full of rage. You'd think of us as liars, right? No, it scared the crap out of him to find out at that age. I pray you have no do-gooders like we did. Good luck to all of you, OP. I, 27 male, have been married to my wife, 26, for a little over a year. Last week, it was my wife's birthday, and she received a $3,000 diamond necklace from my brother, 30. I was pretty weirded out by this, as even though my brother is far from poor, he's not the type to gift anyone gifts worth thousands, and he especially never gave my wife something as expensive as this. My wife shrugged it off as nothing, and my brother felt generous. Here's where I might be the idiot. I still feel uneasy about the gift. I brought it up to my brother's wife, 30, and she lost it on him. Apparently, she never agreed to my brother gifting another woman such an expensive gift. Now both my brother and my wife are mad at me. My brother for creating problems in his marriage, and my wife who thinks I only blabbed about my brother's gift for her to my sister-in-law because I'm insecure my own birthday gift for her wasn't as expensive. I paid for a full spa day for her, which she really liked, but it indeed wasn't as expensive as my brother's necklace. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Let's break it down. Your brother and your wife are dancing horizontally. They think you're too dumb to notice, and as a private joke between them, he gives her an expensive necklace in front of you. They thought they'd be able to get away with being blatant about their relationship. You stuffed things up by contacting the sister-in-law, who has a few dozen more IQ points than your good self, and recognizes horizontal dancing when she sees it. That's what this is about. OP, you should swap wives with bro on a permanent basis. If your wife takes half of your assets and your sister-in-law takes half of theirs, you get the better deal. I feel a little sad as I would have been this clueless in my first marriage. I was blind to my ex-wife setting herself up to exit the marriage years before she did. I adored her and couldn't see anything wrong, even though my family and friends warned me. If my husband gave me a $3K necklace, I'd be wondering what he did, because clearly the man's trying to apologize or something. Info: any signs that your wife is cheating? Apart from the $3,000 necklace. I'll be waiting on your next post, where you confirm that they're having an affair. Everyone is going to assume your brother and wife are having an affair, but I think the truth is much more sinister. The necklace is cursed. Bringing it into your home will attract the attentions of the old ones. Disavow your brother. He's trying to kill you. And abandon your wife. She's already come to their attention. It's too late for her. Rescue your sister-in-law and flee. I, 25, am a general manager at a shop. I'm not the owner, but I've been with them since I was a teen and worked up to my current position. It's been the perfect job to pair with my classes. As the general manager, I do the scheduling and the hiring. The owners trust my judgment and let me hire and fire at my discretion. Last week, I hired a girl, teen, from the local high school. She was lovely and showed a willingness to work. She seems a little on the quiet side, but this being her first job, I think it's expected to an extent. There were zero tells or mentions that she may have special needs. 2 days after hiring her, she's not supposed to start until this upcoming week. Her father came in and introduced himself to me. He was polite, thanked me for hiring his daughter, and left his phone number, telling me to call him after I'm off. I was confused because I've never dealt with a situation like this, but I did call him. He thanked me again, but then said his daughter has severe anxiety and is a slow learner, and that I need to make special accommodations for her. Here's what they are. Do not schedule her for more than 3 hours at a time. Please allow her as many 10-minute breaks as she needs when she appears overwhelmed. He said that if it's very busy, it's better to just let her sit in the back room and watch YouTube. Her school comes first, which I understand, but he said she'll need to call off when she has significant homework. Give her plenty of compliments and let the other staff know to go the extra mile to make her feel welcome. If she makes a mistake, I shouldn't discuss it with her, but call him. I don't know much about employment law and not sure if I could be in legal trouble, but like every state, we have at-will employment. I called the owner to tell him about this, and he said to use my discretion. I want to call the father back and say that I cannot make these accommodations, and if she does need these accommodations, I'll have to rescind the job offer. I feel for the girl. Like I said, she was very sweet, But at the same time, I do have a business to run. I'm not a special ed teacher. What's the point of hiring her when I'll need to be overstaffed to accommodate for her? I just can't do it. So right now I'm thinking of calling her dad tomorrow and letting him know that she'll be treated like every other employee, and if this doesn't work for her, then she can't work here. Would I be an idiot for that? Not the idiot. However, I would not call the father. I would call the person you employed and talk to her about it. If she wants to join the workforce, she needs to understand what that means. It means she needs to speak up for herself if she has needs in the workplace. I get the impression that the father may have done this, though, without the daughter knowing. My gut feeling reading this is that dad is stomping her boundaries or doesn't want her independent. Ignore everything her dad said and treat her like a normal employee. You're the girl's employer, not the dad. I would not be discussing my employees' matters with anyone but them, the owner or HR. Now, I get you might not have HR as a small business, but if you're the GM, you'd better well get familiar with the labor law you operate under. If you rescind the offer before she's even allowed to enter your workforce because of a private convo with the dad, you are the idiot. If she could come in for an interview and get the job, I'm sure she can express any needs she may have to accommodate her. Give her a chance. If it seems like she just isn't a good fit after a few weeks, you still have the option to terminate if she can't do anything. As somebody who's super anxious, new employers can be super intimidating. I would just talk to her about it and try to make her feel safe. Mini update. Hey y'all, thanks for the input. I've decided to give her the job and see how it goes. If she can't handle it, I'll just let her go. My friend is getting married next year, but she's done the most horrible things behind her fiancé's back. My friend, Sarah, 26, is engaged to an old friend of mine from high school, Jason, 26. In 2022, Sarah cheated on Jason with his coworker from a job he got her. I've told her, and many of our close friends told her, it's wrong and unfair to Jason. Note, he's been cheated on before. She claims she felt terrible and regrets it. As her New Year resolution, she told him she had an emotional affair, and the only physical thing was a kiss. She left out the part where she had intimacy with him multiple times, but Jason forgave her and wanted to start over. In February, she messaged the guy, Eric, 29, on Instagram, who she knew had feelings for her. She went on a date and said he was weird and not her type. Eric works a professional job and is more stable, and he lives in a different state 10 hours away. She starts talking to Eric more often, and he eventually flies her out to see him. She told our close friend group about how she wanted to leave Jason for Eric. We told her that's fine, but she needs to be honest with Jason. Jason proposes to her in March, and she accepts and starts the wedding planning process. He works in construction outside of the city and comes home every 20 days for a week. After the proposal, he says he wants to be celibate until the wedding day to have God's blessing. She took that as an opportunity to have unprotected intimacy with Eric whenever she wanted. She visits him 3 to 4 times a month because Jason is out for work. When I asked if she was even using protection or getting tested, she said no, only loose women get tested, and that she was against birth control. Slowly, our friend group started to exclude her. We can't support someone who's reckless, selfish, and has no regard for the love of her life. Then a few months ago, she came to a dinner party and told us she was pregnant with Eric's baby. She laughs it off, and we tell her she needs to come clean now, and this has gone on for too long. She says now isn't the time because Jason planned a trip to Mexico, and she really wanted to go. Also, Jason pays for her car and phone bills, and she isn't equipped to let that stuff go. Well, she got a procedure, but continues to make light of the issue. Eric finally broke things off because he felt she would treat him the same way, and he couldn't look at her anymore. She was upset but said, "It's whatever now. I have a wedding to plan." I want Jason to know what has been happening. I don't want to be involved, but he doesn't deserve to marry someone who treats him so poorly. I've known him longer than her, and he's a good guy. Would I be an idiot if I told him what she was doing? Not the idiot. Sarah sounds just awful in so many different ways. Take telling Jason the truth as an opportunity to have no contact with her. However, I would expect Jason to be very upset with you, not just because shoot the messenger is a very real response to news like this, but because you sat on this for so long. You should have told him when Sarah lied to him about her first affair. You should have told him when you knew she was having an affair in the first place. Sarah sounds deeply self-absorbed and profoundly lacking in compassion, empathy, and respect, but you covered up for her. There will be consequences, and you'll have to face them. Tell Jason the whole truth, all of it. Tell him to get tested. Cut Sarah out of your life. Then look at yourself and ask why you stayed silent when you knew one of your friends was getting hurt. OP, you're telling me that for over a year, you knew this woman cheated with a coworker, lied about it, started dating a guy from another state, and visited him multiple times a month, got pregnant by the guy, and you never told your friend? You're the idiot because you watched someone you consider a friend since high school get used and cheated on by someone and didn't say a word. I guess girl code is more important, huh? For the love of all that, there is someone in your friend group who needs to actually be Jason's friend and tell him. You are the idiot for not telling him sooner. He sounds like a good guy, but you sound like a horrible human being for letting it go on this long, much like your friend who you thoroughly deserve. I, 27 male, have always had a sensitive stomach. A lot of things mess me up, but ever since I was a kid, the thing that was always the worst was sugar-free sweets. I don't know what chemicals those companies use, but anything that tastes like it has sugar in it but doesn't has been a nightmare for my stomach. Seriously, sugar-free food messes me up. So yeah, fast forward to now, and my brother has decided to go vegan. I have no problem with this. He had a birthday dinner yesterday, and before the cake was served, I overheard him bragging to his friend about how the cake was completely vegan and sugar-free. I was a little hurt because my brother knows about my stomach problems, but I figured it was his birthday, so whatever. My brother tried to pass me a slice when the cake was served, and I said no thanks. He told me that he knew it tasted good and made it himself and asked me to at least try it. I still said no thank you, a little more assertively, and he dropped it. Things got really awkward really quickly, and I ended up leaving early. Now my family's been telling me that I was rude to refuse to eat the cake. I've tried to explain about my stomach, but they claim that I could have taken a bite to be polite. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Why would they be so invested in you eating a piece of cake, even if it didn't give you the squirts? No kidding. Passing up a dessert is not something to be taken personally. It's not like you flipped the table and stormed out. I totally understand your issues with sugar-free foods. I'm highly allergic to stevia, the sugar substitute in everything now, and I'll be getting an EpiPen for it soon. I've also had to deny sweets because they're sugar-free, and people couldn't tell me what sugar substitute was used. Even if you don't have a health issue, no one should care that you didn't eat it. It's not some kind of slap in the face. Attending a birthday party and not wanting any cake is completely okay, but next time accept the cake and leave it behind a couch somewhere. Hope they like that. Or tell them you bring rat poison next time to the barbecue and will expect everyone to take a non-lethal dose just to be polite. What the heck is wrong with them? I cannot imagine ever being offended that someone couldn't eat something I'd made because they have a food allergy or intolerance, let alone ignoring a food intolerance that I knew they had when preparing food for an event I knew they'd be at. Your family sounds like a bunch of idiots to me. My adoptive daughter is Lucy, tween, and her biological mother is Erica, 29. My son, 33, got Erica pregnant, who we knew as a daughter of a friend, and she decided she didn't want the baby. My son didn't want the baby either, so we offered to help Erica out financially if we could adopt the baby, and we'd always wanted another child, but it never happened for us. So we paid her rent for 2 years while she went to college. Cut to 11 years later. We unfortunately have a poor relationship with our son, as he doesn't want to be involved with our daughter, but we see him and text him frequently enough. He visited us and told us that Erica had asked to see our daughter. My husband had told her when she was pregnant that we may allow contact, but honestly, we don't think that's best for our daughter at this stage. It'll be confusing and upsetting. I told her when our daughter's emotionally well enough, we'll tell her, but right now she's going through therapy for anxiety. My son thinks I'm an idiot. Erica has a new toddler now and said she couldn't even imagine how our daughter will feel when she does find out that Erica has a family. My son and Erica both believe I'm the idiot, but not only that, Erica's parents, whom I've known for 25 years, are now refusing contact and insulting us to common friends, saying they allowed the adoption, but Erica has a right to know her daughter. Nobody had a problem 3 years ago when we went through this. Erica contacted us then, and we shut her down telling her that we weren't comfortable until our daughter was an adult. But now suddenly everyone's losing their mind. So am I the idiot for not letting my daughter meet her biological mother? Edit, she's not aware she's adopted. You are the idiot. Your daughter doesn't even know she's adopted? What? That's an important fact that every adopted child should learn from the beginning, even if it originated from a bad situation. Trust me, as an adopted child, I would be angry if I were to find out I was adopted years later. It's better to tell her now before some serious resentment kicks in. Get her into therapy too. We all have things that we don't want to do, but you're leaving out a pretty big part of your daughter's life. At her age, it's going to rock her world regardless. And her bio dad is her brother, who visits frequently. OP is not just withholding information. That is straight up lying to the daughter. These families both know each other and are or were friends. How long did OP think everyone would keep this secret before it blew up in her daughter's face? This is not a good situation. Poor kid. The best time to tell a child they're adopted is when they're young enough that they'll internalize it as just the way it is. The second best time is now. Regardless of what you do going forward, this will cause trauma. And if you don't bring it up soon, you won't have any control over how it happens. My goodness, it really sounds like you bought the child from her, because a biologically related to you baby was an offer. Ugh. Why didn't you immediately let the kid know where she comes from? I hope some adoptees speak up here, because from what I've read, it's always healthier to establish contact with the birth parents if that's safe. You chose the option most comfortable for you. Ugh. Tell your daughter where she came from, like yesterday. This, absolutely this. The fact she bought the baby is gross to me and clearly against her son's wishes, as she seemed to go low contact with them. This poor girl will have so many issues when she finally figures it out. You're concealing your daughter's identity from her and alienating your son, all to perpetuate fraud. What a mess. I, 37 male, am an assistant to the manager, Pat, 43 female, at a local business. I've been here about 10 years, and my manager's been here for about 13. We just took on a new hire about a month ago, Layla, 21 female. Saturday evening, Layla stayed after work with most of her coworkers and us, and their plus ones, for a little Halloween party. We had snacks, drinks, and some alcohol. My manager organized everything, and some higher-ups from the business's branch in the capital were supposed to stop by. Unfortunately, my manager had to leave for an hour or so to take care of some personal things, so I oversaw things while she was gone. Everything was going fine, so I got a drink. At some point shortly after, I was chatting with a coworker and his girlfriend when I spotted Layla across the room drinking a twisted tea. The thing is, I didn't know she was 21. While 18 is our age minimum for hiring, Layla looks 14 to 16, so it seemed like if she was 18, it was only barely. So I thought she was drinking underage. So I walked over and asked her to stop drinking and throw it away, and that I wouldn't talk to the manager about it, as long as she stopped now and didn't argue with me about it. She looked surprised and started apologizing and said, "I thought we were all allowed to drink. I didn't mean to break a work rule. The others are drinking." I told her it wasn't a work rule, it was the law, and that's when she looked confused. I took her drink from her and said, "Honey, you know you're underage. This is a work function at a place of business, not your friend's house." I was just trying to be polite and let her know that even though I wasn't going to allow it, I wasn't necessarily upset with her, and she wasn't in any trouble. This was when things got messy. Layla started telling me she was 21, turning 22 in about 6 weeks, and that she had no problem going and getting her license for me because she gets this kind of confusion from people often. I told her I'd like to see her license, but that I'd still rather she not drink for the rest of the night. She asked why, and I told her that no matter what her license said, she still looked like a teenager, and I couldn't have people in the store seeing her drink and thinking I condoned underage drinking, especially when the higher-ups come by. Layla said okay, dumped her drink, and then disappeared. Someone later said she called a friend to pick her up and went home. I came into work yesterday morning and Layla didn't show up, and when I asked Pat where she was, she told me Layla got today off because of the Halloween party incident and that we needed to talk about how I treated her. She said I had no right to keep Layla from drinking when she was of legal age to do so, regardless of how young she appears. But I still think I'm right and that Layla posed a potential liability. Was I the idiot here? OMG, the thought of someone under 21 drinking a whole can of twisted tea at a party? The police will come. You will lose your career over this. You have no business being an assistant when your first response to seeing her with a drink was to order her to throw it away. You were an idiot at that moment. Then you made the situation worse and worse with your rude, misogynistic, ageist bullying. Also, you called her honey? That's condescending and gross. This could be a colossal HR problem because you potentially discriminated against her based on her age and looks. I wouldn't be surprised if your employer terminates you. So keep your misogyny in check next time. Okay, honey? You are the idiot. And if anyone here is a legal liability, it's you. Once she confirmed that she was of age, you had no right to treat her based on how old she looked to you. I think she can pretty credibly threaten a discrimination lawsuit against your company. She wouldn't necessarily win, but who wants to take the chance? I, 31 female, live in Brussels with my husband, 30, Leo. Leo has a brother, Ali, 34, who's married to Sarah, 34, who also lives in Brussels. Sarah's from an English-speaking country and has never bothered to learn French, the language our husbands speak, even though she's lived in Brussels for 7 or 8 years. She says things like, "Everyone here speaks English, so I don't need to," or "I know how to say a coffee, that's all I need." Frankly, she can do whatever she wants, but our husband's parents don't speak English, so whenever we spend time with them, which is quite often, we have dinner there more or less every Friday. The conversation needs to be translated. For some reason, this always falls on me. I'm also from an Anglophone country, but my dad is French. I didn't mind at first, but she's lived here 8 years. She's married to a Belgian man, and she's never bothered to learn so that she can speak to his parents directly. I find it annoying that it always falls on me if her husband isn't there, because the other siblings, they have another brother and another sister, find it irritating that she's never made an effort, and they just don't bother translating anymore. Last week I was trying to speak to my mother-in-law about something quite personal. My husband and I are trying for children, and it's been hard, and Sarah kept asking me to translate for her. It was really starting to annoy me, especially as it's a sensitive conversation, and translating it was quite painful. So when we left, I told her that I wouldn't be the go-between for her anymore. I told her that she lived here, and that if she wanted to speak to his family, she was going to have to put in some effort to learn the language. After this happened, she was apparently in tears with her husband that night, and now they're upset with me. So they're refusing to come to any more family dinners unless I apologize. Am I the idiot? If you do apologize, make sure you do it in French. You are not the idiot. If she doesn't want to learn French, then her husband can do the translating. It's not your job. Your sister-in-law is quite entitled, and honestly disrespectful. There's no excuse for not trying to learn the language of the country where she's lived for 8 years. And I love the threat to not come to family dinners until she apologizes. Oh no, don't threaten me with a good time. OP, they're upset because it was easier to make you do all the work, for her to sit there and not learn anything, and for him to not to go to every event with her. That's their problem. You did nothing wrong. You've done more for her than most people would. Honestly, OP, it sounds like you aren't the only one who doesn't want to translate for sister-in-law anymore. You said her siblings don't want to. And also, if the husband is actually angry with you, maybe he doesn't feel like doing it all the time. Perhaps he feels like he needs a break translating, and so he relies on you. This whole thing is ridiculous. After all this time, you almost have to make an effort not to pick anything up in 7 years. I, 28 female, teach at a lower income school here in the States. In the 6-ish years I've been teaching, I've always had animals in the classroom. I think it's crucial, especially for students who can't have pets. This year for the animal biology lesson, in addition to having our pet turtle, I decided to invest in hermit crabs. Prior to the month-long unit, I had the kids do reports on animals and used hermit crabs as an example. Then as the unit was introduced, I revealed the crabs. The kids were so excited. They took turns taking care of them, learned all about them, named them, etc. After the unit finished, I decided to pick 3 students to take the crabs home. They had to fill out a form and get permission from guardians, and the grown-ups had to come to meet me to get the crabs. All of this was cleared with the admin, of course. Everything was fine, and I chose my more responsible students, spoke with guardians, etc. Then a week later, one of the students told me something sad had happened. Her crab had died. I sent her to the guidance counselor to walk through her grief and reached out to her mom to see how I could support her. Well, wouldn't you know? According to Mom, I'm a total idiot for giving her daughter the pet to begin with. She's been crying nonstop and is devastated beyond belief. It wasn't my place to give her daughter a pet, and I crossed so many lines. She then complained to the admin about me, and I had to meet with the principal, who told me it was a bad idea. Crabs are fragile, and knowingly inflicted grief on a child and hurt an animal. I just wanted to make the unit fun and teach responsibility and social-emotional skills. Am I the idiot? Edit. The mom came in to pick the crab up, and I gave her the information packet, along with all the supplies needed. I also told her that crabs are fragile and warned her it might die, and that I'd be in touch if she needed me. I also want to clarify that the parents knew the unit and crabs as potential pets before the permission slips went out. I discussed the unit during conferences because it was a big unit. I wanted to see if there was an interest before executing the plan, and if not, I would keep them and use them as classroom pets for years to come. Not the idiot. The parents and guardians had to sign official permission slips, so it becomes their responsibility for knowingly causing a child grief, not yours. Therefore, they need to learn basic self-accountability. You didn't give the crabs away. You made them available for adoption. That parent is missing a huge opportunity to invest emotionally in their child. It sounds like those kids are lucky to have you. You sound like an amazing and dedicated teacher. This project sounds amazing. And yes, unfortunately, there will be parents every year who will do everything in their power to make you lose this motivation and dedication. I'm a fellow teacher myself and met these parents, but definitely, maybe there's a lesson learned here. Keep classroom pets as classroom pets, or consider including frank discussions with parents that death is likely going to occur at some point and they need to be ready for it. OP, it's not a bad thing that she's crying. She's working through some hard emotions, but just because they're hard doesn't mean they're bad. Crabs are fragile creatures, but so is any animal, and so are humans. Life is fragile, and we do a severe disservice to children if we shelter them from life, which death is a part of. So I, male 22, go to uni, and I have a friend from my class, Casey, female 21. We're in our 3rd year of uni. We hang out sometimes outside of uni with other friends, but I wouldn't say Casey and I are close. However, recently Casey's been talking to me a lot more and making efforts to try to spend time with me. At first, I thought Casey was interested in me and subtly reminded her that I have a girlfriend, but it turns out that Casey is a lesbian. Anyway, Casey's been talking to me a lot out of nowhere. She frequently vents to me about her problems, which I don't mind, but it's almost daily. Casey's also been asking me to do tasks for her, like calling customer service numbers for her because she's too shy to do it herself, accompanying her to doctor's appointments, or moving furniture in her apartment. I'm not very good at telling people no, and I thought I was doing a good deed by helping her out, but she never talks to me unless she wants to vent or ask me to help her with stuff, and it's becoming draining. A few days ago, Casey called me to ask if I could accompany her to the orthodontist as she's getting her braces tightened. I told her I couldn't as I had a date with my girlfriend that day. Casey implied that I should cancel the date, and I firmly told her I wasn't going to, but I hoped her appointment would go well. She started talking in a baby voice and begging me to go with her, and going on about how she's scared of the dentist. I told her no again. She started yelling at me and saying I'm being a garbage friend. I lost my patience and yelled back at her and told her to grow up and stop acting like a toddler. Casey went silent for a few seconds, then hung up the phone, and she's blocked me on everything and has been telling all our classmates that I'm a nice guy. Not the idiot. You aren't her dad, boyfriend, brother, or cousin. She needs to grow up and seek support elsewhere. She's been using you for a long time, and the first time you said no, she showed her true colors. Do you think that Casey is or was a friend? She was using you. She dumped you as soon as she realized you weren't there to be used. In my opinion, you'll find that life without Casey is much better than life with Casey. I don't think she's using him. I think she's created a false version of their friendship in her head, one that is significantly more intimate than what OP is experiencing. Then she told everyone OP is a nice guy who was trying to force a friendship with her to try and have intimacy with her. It sounds like that's exactly what she's trying to do to him, and when he chose his girlfriend over her, she freaked out. She did you a favor by completely overreacting. Keep her blocked. It's icky when grown adults act like they can't function without someone to coddle them. You're not her butler, concierge, personal assistant, or emotional support dog. Her overreaction is an attempt to manipulate you because this has worked for her before emotionally.